Watched my mysterious best friend vanish just as suddenly as he appeared, leaving behind nothing but questions and a haunting sense of loss. I was probably around 10-11 years old the first time I remember the boy turning up. It was the middle of summer and my friends and I were swimming in a lake in one of my parents' fields. I grew up in a small farmer's town, with a population of no more than 200, and so everyone knew everyone. There were 2 schools in the town, one for boys and one for girls. I'm not sure why they split them by gender, and I'm pretty sure both have merged now, but that's what it was like when I lived there. I'm going to tell it how I remember it happening, but my friend who was there at the time remembers it slightly differently than I do. So, as I was saying, my friends, I think it was about 4 of us in total, and I were swimming in the lake at the bottom of one of my parents' fields. It was about a 15-minute walk from my main house. We had been playing there for a while, when we heard someone calling to us. We looked over and saw the boy standing at the edge of the lake, completely naked. Once we noticed him, he shouted if he could play with us. He looked to be around the same age as us, maybe a little older but not by much. He was super pale, like white pale. I remember being amazed and kind of jealous of his super bright green eyes. He also had shoulder-length white blonde hair, like Draco Malfoy blonde. I looked to my friends and we said yeah, and he came in the lake with us. None of us recognized him. Which, as I said, was weird because we had all lived in this tiny town for our whole lives and everyone basically knew everyone living there. He introduced himself as Richard, but he said he prefers if we called him Richie, so we did. I remember asking Richie where he was from, but he would go all awkward and would never give a straight answer. Anyway, after a while more of playing in the lake, Richie seemed fun and I invited him to come back to my house for supper. He straight away said he would love to come and my friend was like, "Don't you need to ask your mom?" To which Richie said something like, "Oh, she won't mind." Remember how I said Richie was completely naked? Well, that wasn't so strange. In fact, I'm pretty sure we all were. My friends and I were all boys and we would skinny dip in the lake normally, so it didn't stick out to me when he first arrived like that. But what did stick out to me was when we got out of the lake, dried and dressed ourselves, Richie had no clothes with him to get dressed into. Which I remember thinking was super weird, but he said something like, "Oh, I must have forgot to bring them." Which again, I thought was very weird, like how do you forget your clothes? I wasn't sure how my parents would react to me bringing home a naked boy, so I gave him my briefs and my overshirt to put on. But yeah, that stuck out as very odd. My friends went back home and Richie and I went to my house. My dad was like, "Where's his clothes?" I just made something up. I'm pretty sure I said something like his clothes got wet so we left them in the sun to dry. I got him some trousers to put on. We ate supper, which I remember him having 3 or 4 plates of. As I said, Richie is a super skinny boy. I was pretty small and skinny at the time. But he was definitely more skinny than I was, so I was confused how he ate so much. Lol. Richie was super polite and sweet to everyone while he was at my house. After supper I took him upstairs to my room and we played on my Nintendo 64 together. He had never seen one before and was super amazed by it. At the time I thought he had never seen one before and was super amazed by it. At the time I thought he had never seen one because they were so old. This was 2010. But my family was poor and that's all I had. It started to get dark and I asked him if he wanted to sleep over. He was really excited by that and said yeah. I checked with my parents but I knew they wouldn't mind cause they were both super drunk. So we continued playing on N64 until it was super late. After a while, I said it was time that we went to bed as I was tired, but I don't remember him seeming tired at all. Richie asked if he could shower before as we had been playing in my fields and he was really muddy. As he was showering I made my bed for us, and put a movie on the TV for us to watch as we went to sleep and I got into bed. Richie came in like 5 minutes later and was completely naked again. I was like, "Did you walk from the bathroom like that?" He was like yeah and didn't seem to care at all, so even though I thought it was strange I didn't say anything. He got into my bed, I asked him if he wanted any pajamas and he said no, it was too hot, which to be fair I do remember it being really hot that day. I had a Scooby-Doo movie on and he was really excited by it, and didn't know anything about them, which I guess isn't too weird. But looking back, he didn't seem to know any pop culture stuff at all. I mean, we were pretty behind the times in my small town but we still knew most pop culture. I had slept in quite a lot the next day, but when I woke up Richie wasn't in my room. I went and asked my mom if she'd seen him and she said he left early that morning after his parents rang our house. How they knew he was with us or where to ring I'm still not sure. Richie had taken some shorts from my room because my mom said he couldn't leave without clothes on. I was a little disappointed he left without me, or at least without saying goodbye or without leaving any way of contacting him again. He turned up again a couple days later when my friends and I were swimming in the lake again. This time he brought clothes, but I'm pretty sure he only brought some briefs and a shirt with no pants. Which again, I thought was weird. Over the next year, him and I became super close. We were like brothers. Over the year, I asked if I could see his home or meet his family. But anytime I said anything personal about him, he would go awkward and not want to talk about it. Or he would just change the subject. But I could see it made him feel uncomfortable, so I didn't push him to tell me. He did tell me he was homeschooled, which I thought was cool. Because on my mind that meant no school. As I said, we became really close over the year. I felt like he was more than a friend to me. It's difficult to explain, it's almost like we clicked from the first time we met. We became close really quick, and I felt like I could tell him anything and he would always help and support me. He helped me through so many hard times, and he definitely encouraged me to be a better person. It was almost as if he could sense when I was going through anything. For example, when my grandma passed away, I went out into my fields to cry as I didn't want to do it in front of my family. But after sitting down in some random place, Richie turned up and sat next to me. He said some things that I remember helping me a lot. When I asked him how he found me, he said that we was just on a walk. Not too long after this, he just vanished. It had been a little over a year since the first time he appeared at the lake. It was around September the year after, so it had been around a year and 2/3 months. He never turned up again, never said goodbye, never left a trace. I was massively upset. I really missed him. I would walk around the fields looking for him, and I would hang out by the lake where we first met, hoping that he would turn up, but he never did again. I still don't know what happened to him. I've tried searching social media for him but with no luck, and since he would never tell me that much about his life, I don't have that much to go on. I asked my parents what they remember of him. They said they remember him being odd, and that they were unsure about him at first, especially how he had a tendency to strip naked whenever he felt like it. But they also said that he and I were inseparable, and wherever I was he was sure to be found there too. They said they remember me being heartbroken when he stopped appearing, and they weren't sure whether they should call the police about him being gone, but they never did. I kind of wish they did. I suppose this is a long shot, but if you're reading this, Richie, reach out to me. Update 1. This journey has been difficult. Many years I have searched for answers on where Richie is now. Sadly, it is not good news. Deep down, I think I feared and perhaps avoided searching for Richie in case this was the outcome. With the help of everyone here and so many lovely commenters, I tracked down a distant relative to Richie, who put me in contact with Richie's older sister. A sister that I did not know existed. For the sake of clarity, I will name the sister Sarah. Sarah helped put into context Richie, his odd behavior, his unwillingness to show me his home, and his disappearance. Sarah and Richie both suffered abuse and neglect at the hands of their father. Their father, who suffered with severe mental health issues and drug-related problems for most of his adult life. Their father was terrified of the outside world, and thus kept them secluded away in secret. According to Sarah, their father was convinced that the world was months away from ending at any given time. He was convinced that the devil was planning to take over his mind and body. And was convinced that Jesus had spoken to him, and told him the only way to keep him and his family safe was to keep them secluded from the outside world. Sarah shared that their father would not often be physically abusive, which I suppose is of some relief. Richie and his family would move often throughout his childhood, never staying in one place for too long, as his father feared that the devil would soon find them. Sarah said they were most likely moved in the middle of the night with no forewarning, though she can't remember the specific time they were moved from my town. This helps to explain how Richie seemed to appear one day and disappear 15 months later. Richie passed away at age 15, around 2.5 years after vanishing from my town. Sarah struggled to go into the details of Richie's death, and I didn't want to push her into sharing something that was painful for her, though it seemed that Richie took his own life. Sarah told me that Richie would often speak of me and the time we spent together, and that all Richie ever wanted to do was to come back and find me. Sadly, he never managed that. She said she thought that I was just imaginary. She isn't sure how Richie would sneak out of the house to meet with me, but said that their father would keep them locked in their rooms for days and sometimes weeks at a time. Sarah told me she has a collection of Richie's diaries, which I do remember him writing occasionally. She has offered to send them to me, which is lovely of her. She told me that a lot of the writing is about me, about our time together, about how he wanted to find me again so we could run away together. Again, she never thought I was a real person. Hearing that was so incredibly bittersweet. I look forward to reading those diaries, even though it will be incredibly difficult at the same time. She said she is glad that Richie managed to have an impact on someone on this world. I wish that I was able to express the impact that Richie had on my life. I wish I could tell Richie the impact he had on my life. I want everyone to know Richie. I want everyone to know what an amazing, kind and beautiful person Richie was. This post is difficult for me to write. Deep down, I think that I resisted searching for Richie more in case this was the outcome. Sarah told me a lot more information, but I've decided to leave out most to respect her privacy. Sarah is away and safe from her father, which I am so glad about. Again, I just want to express how thankful I am for all of you who have helped. For all of you who have offered emotional support. Thank you so much. Richie, I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. I'm sorry I didn't pick up on the signals that you were in danger. I hope you can forgive me. Richie, you were the only true friend I've ever had. It's so hard for me to write this. I feel so sick that I didn't do more. Richie, I want you to know you saved me so many times throughout my life. So many low moments in my life have been helped because of the memories of you. I am so sorry I wasn't there for you the same way you were there for me. I love you so much, Richie. Update 2. Hello everyone. Almost 1 year ago I made a Reddit post searching for answers about a childhood friend of mine that went missing. It received a moderate amount of attention, and with the people of Reddit's help I was able to track down the relatives of my missing friend. I posted this under a different, now deleted account, However, I have sent the mods of this subreddit proof of me being the oop. I deleted the Reddit account because honestly I didn't want to think about what happened to Richie anymore, as it was too painful for a long time after I discovered the truth. Recently that post has resurfaced on this subreddit, and so I thought I'd give you all an update on where I am today and how I'm doing, as well as how Sarah is doing. It still pains me to think about Richie, and think about how I could have and should have helped him and how I failed to save him. It does really hurt to look back on it. I really don't have many friends and I suffer from pretty bad anxiety, and I just wish I had Richie here with me. Sarah and I still occasionally talk, but not really as often as I wish we could. I have met her IRL once, which was nice. I hope that me posting this update is alright on this subreddit. It just seemed to me that so many were touched by Richie's story that I thought I would put this out there, and I'm happy to answer questions of anyone who has them. Update 3. Am currently in therapy. I started it not too long ago along with some medication, as I have suffered for a while with severe anxiety. I am currently requesting permission from Sarah before I post any of Richie's journal entries, as I feel she should have final say on if she wants those out on the internet. No, I am not writing a book about Richie. No, this is not a promotion for a book. If anyone was to write a book about Richie and his life, I would think it should be Sarah. However, she does not have any interest in sharing her story. She would much rather leave the past in the past, and honestly I can't blame her. It really breaks my heart that there are so many people in here sharing that they knew a Richie, or they were a Richie. I feel like so many children, even now, go under the radar, the lives they live and the abuse they receive with no one there to help. It hurts to think that there could have been so many with us today that have sadly passed on and are no longer with us. I think everyone has a right to be remembered, and I am so glad that Richie has had an impact on so many people here. Also, I'm sorry if I don't respond to a comment. There are a lot on here that I thought would be too difficult to respond to. I can say a million times that I shouldn't feel guilty, and I know that also. But it is very hard not to, and it's very hard to hear that I did all I could do when Richie isn't around anymore. That might sound mopey or ungrateful. I am grateful of all the love I have been sent. I am just not entirely sure if I deserve it. Now on to second story. Wife insists she's expecting twins despite negative tests, preparing a nursery and planning leave, while accusing me of gaslighting her. My wife and I, 42 male, have been married for 2 years, together for 15. All this time we had either not decided to have kids or had problems getting pregnant. After some medical testing we found out that it was near impossible to get pregnant due to some medical issues with her. We were thinking of adopting when one day she came home and told me she was expecting. Of course I was super happy. A week later we had an appointment at the gyno and she had some blood drawn. The test came back negative and of course I was devastated, but she wasn't. She claimed that she was pregnant and that the doctor was wrong. We took some more store-bought ones and they all came back negative. My wife is in complete denial. Now she claims we are having twins. She is buying them clothes and decorations and is pressuring me to start with the nursery. I am at a loss and don't know what to do. My inaction is making her believe that I want to leave them and that I am going to doom my wife into the life of a single mom. What the F is even happening? I love her but I don't know what to do. Edit, forgot to add. I have tried talking her into therapy but she accuses me of gaslighting her. Little update / edit. Thank you guys, you really helped me out. Yesterday was a bad day and you helped me get clarity. I've had a chat with our doctor who will now be handling this with us. I would like to thank most of you with useful advice and hopefully I will be able to update good news someday. But a fuck you to those that said I should divorce her because she is crazy, and an extra fuck you to the guy that used this post to push his anti-abortion agenda. Oop, I know. Also, she isn't showing at all. She is thin as always. Yes, she says that she can't lift heavy things, says she has pregnancy cravings, she buys clothes for the twins, she is even planning to take paid time off from work for when the babies are here. Oop, she claims she was pregnant about a few weeks ago. But as of Friday she says she entered her 19th week. I really don't know what brought her to think that. Update 1. I called up our primary doctor and told him about the problem. He seemed very concerned and wanted us to come see him the next morning. He said it was important to be gentle but not feed into her delusions. I sat her down and we talked. All she wanted to talk about is when I would get the nursery started and that we were on a time crunch, and how she has found a perfect color for the room, how she wants me to be more involved in her pregnancy. I tried to be very calm but I was very perturbed by seeing her that way. I asked her to go to the doctor with me tomorrow. She said yes, that she wanted to check on the babies either ways. Now I took some advice and words you gave me about being calm and asking a bit why she thinks she is pregnant without calling her delusional. So I did. She kept changing subjects or saying that a mother just feels it. You wouldn't know how it is. Then I said that I loved her really much, that I would never think of leaving her, but we needed to go to the doctor to confirm her gut feeling. She got very agitated and was crying, telling me that if I wanted to leave her I should simply leave, but I shouldn't call her a liar. Somehow I managed to calm her down enough for her to go to sleep. After she did, I went on her computer. I do never snoop on her. But I remembered a commenter pointing out forums about cryptic pregnancy, and so I went for the lookout. Oh boy. She was in 2 Facebook groups. One was a normal mommy Facebook group and the other was a group about women that believed they were pregnant. In the normal group she would post updates about her symptoms and pictures of her belly and her story about how she was almost not able to have children, but that's to the grace of God that kissed her tummy the gift of life was given to her, and how she was compensated for all this years of suffering with twins. In the other group the women were quite literally, and excuse me here, fucking insane. They were feeding in each other's delusions. A woman said that she was almost 2 years pregnant and how sometimes it just takes longer. My wife would post there complaining about doctors that do not take her seriously and about me. So many women were making her fear that I would leave. Saying things like men cannot stick to a woman. Many recounted their stories about how their marriages broke down because their spouses could not handle the pregnancy. I was really fucking scared. I researched phantom pregnancies and I read somewhere that could also be a sign of schizophrenia. So to say the least I could not sleep. I was and am still very afraid of losing her. She woke up and I tried to act like nothing was wrong. We were going to the doctor. And it was as if nothing had happened yesterday. She was convinced that we were going to a pregnancy checkup. Things got really bad when we began talking to the doctor. He was really tactful when talking to my wife. He tried to explain her that it was medically impossible that she was pregnant. We tried to show her tests, the ultrasound we did the day before, but nothing. She got more agitated and began to cry and scream at me for making her look like a crazy person. She began bouncing back and forth and holding her head with both hands. We could not calm her. She went in on a full-on panic attack. She could not breathe. The doctor laid her down and tried giving her some medicine for her to relax, but it did not help as he didn't have the necessary tools to treat a panic attack that was that bad. She had to go to the hospital where they took care of her. Did an EKG to exclude that she was suffering a heart attack. At that point I really had no other option than to inquire about involuntary commit. So I could not do it myself. I needed my doctor's statement that she was a danger to herself and others, and he had to initiate the process of an involuntary examination of 72 hours. After that we will have to submit a written statement to the court to determine whether or not she can stay there against her will. So far I have submitted all her posts in both Facebook groups as well as the test we did with timestamps when possible. My wife is 2 days in the 3 days examina, and I have no contact to her. When I last her she was furious with me. She said I was taking away her freedom, which I am. I felt horrible, dirty and useless. She is so mad at me. I feel like I am abandoning her and don't know how she will ever forgive me this. I love her with all my heart. I am afraid of what will happen if the courts decide that I can't commit her, how her life will be affected. I feel like I failed to protect her. At this point I'm just rambling. Sorry for the long post. I guess I just need to vent because I have no one else to really turn to that just wants to listen. I feel judged by everyone and pitied. I just hate it. Sorry for spelling mistakes. Edit. I will not fucking leave my wife, you unempathetic dickheads. When I gave my vows I meant trough illness and bad times. I am not only on the ride for the good times. If you truly love someone you will do whatever it takes to see them healthy again. Would you leave your spouse if they went trough a severe physical illness? I am here to stay. I will not divorce her. She is not a fucking psycho, she is sick. I hope no one of your loved ones ever has to go trough this because their support net will consist of cowardly dickheads. Sorry for the rant. But if you want to say something line divorce that nut, don't even bother. I understand people that make the choice to leave if the situation when it begins to mess with their mental health, and I respect that, but I won't do that. Edit 2. My wife didn't have a heart attack. She was examined because panic attacks register with similar symptoms as heart attacks. I don't exactly know what our doctor gave her as I was so distraught. But I was not a sedative. I think it was something along the lines of Valium or Baldrian. Over-the-counter stuff mostly. She has family. She is estranged from most of them. Her sister is now at our place to help. Also refrain from such stupid comments like I'll bet she will leave bro. She is cray, how did you marry he, are because they are not helpful at all. Especially the bets that are going on that my wife will leave me once she gets better. Update 2. Hi guys. It's me again. We have a lot of time on our hands, so I thought why not update the community that helped me. Even if it was just to let me know that I could vent. I don't even know how much time has passed, but I am very happy to say that things are working out. I have my wife's permission to share this with you all, and she is even telling me to greet you. After being in the 72-hour stay, it was determined that she had to stay there. My wife was pissed for the first few weeks. It was a devastating time. But time and therapy heals all wounds. Slowly I was allowed to come visit. And every day I went I saw a bit more of the person I loved. There were setbacks along the way and I had to watch a lot what I said and did. For example, the first few weeks she wouldn't tolerate touch or something like that. Our trust had to be regained slowly. From both parts. We put so much work in. And even now that she is back home, and has been for a while, we sometimes have bad days where it is difficult for my wife to get out of bed or where I am suspicious of her getting back into that state. But at the end of the day I am happy. We go to counseling together and we are on individual therapy as well. Especially because due to the stress I developed a form of anxiety. But every day it's a bit better. I have discovered new sides of my wife, like the new hobby that she has of making resin jewelry and decorations. Even our quarantine time has been quite peaceful. We still have remote therapy and everything. Things are not normal yet. And adoption is not back on the table as of now. We have given ourselves at least a year of therapy before we think about parenting and raising a child. One thing is for certain. I am still in love with my wife and I still love her so much. Our relationship might not be better than ever, but it sure as hell is stronger than ever. Also, she has done a lot of self-reflection and of course has thanked me for how I handled things. She is lovely.